So when you're deploying, keep it in mind your plan. So decide where you want to win, where you want to lose, or at least just delay your opponent. Try to find some terrain to guard the flank of your delaying force if possible. And put two ranks of units where you want to strike. And like as it used to, it may be a Schwerpunkt. Do not try to cover the whole frontage. Refuse a flank. It's usually impossible in Field of Glory to cover the whole frontage. So you must decide where you're going to attack or where you're going to defend. Remember that unmaneuverable units can't do much other than go straight ahead. So where you put them is of critical importance. And again, check the other side of the battlefield to make sure that when they will only have to move it the tiniest bit to the left and right in order to get there. As I've mentioned in the previous video, of course, the one about mass bows, they should be put on a hill. Of course, if you have a hill on your side, then that's pretty good. But again, it may not be a good idea just to sit on your hill on your side because the enemy might be able to just go around it. Try to put your units where they can control the terrain on the other side of the battlefield, not your side, but the other side. You've got to get over to the enemy side of the battlefield if you want to get this game won. And remember that you've only got to get at 40% of the enemy force. So you haven't got to cover the entire enemy army. You've only got to get to 40% of it. And if you can concentrate your army at that particular point, then that's how you're going to achieve that 40%, 25% split for a quick victory. So having made our plan, this is how our deployment and recruitment works out. So we end up with a small cavalry force, in this case it's only one unit, on the left flank. We've got medium infantry, in this case the Thorakitai, excellent medium infantry facing the built-up area. And then we've got pikemen in the center, and we've got cavalry on our right, a large group of cavalry, and we've got a small number of light infantry facing the rough terrain which is next to the built-up area. We've also got some elephants supporting the attack. They have a bit of maneuver. Although they're unmaneuverable, they do move 3 squares a turn, which means that they can be redirected. So when you're deploying, don't be afraid to deploy cavalry in difficult terrain, as they can move out of it quickly. Quite often you can move them straight on to clear terrain from the rough terrain. And if they're 2 squares inside a wood, then the enemy can't see them, so you can have a good surprise effect there. Deploy your light troops in groups of 3. If you have elephants or cavalry, put them in at least 1 square away from the cavalry, otherwise they disorder them. Elephants should be put in the second rank or on the flanks. Use them to support the heavy infantry or secure the flanks against cavalry. Elephants are really good at filling the gaps when the heavy infantry in front of them have pursued or followed up the troops they're fighting. Another thing, if you've got a Roman army with elite legionaries, well, you don't have to worry about all this business about terrain because they're just so good. You can just put them where you like. The order that you do things in Field of Glory 2 is of critical importance. So it helps to notionally divide up the turn into segments. So here we'll just talk briefly about what you do at the beginning of a turn. So at the start of a turn, you check for attacks such as attacks on fragmented troops or flank charges. These will have severe consequences for the enemy and also for your own troops, who may then follow them up, and you may then have to fill in gaps and such like. So do those first. You also have to check for the locations of generals to see if they can be moved. A general can be moved 4 squares because that has to be done before combat if it's to if it is to change the result. And also shooting is another thing you should think of doing at the start of a turn. It's best to do all your shooting together if possible, because that way you can concentrate the fire where necessary. And of course, as I'll mention in the shooting section, standing still shots are much more effective. Now we come to movement. So especially at the start of the game, it's helpful to press the G key and put the grid in and count the squares between you and the enemy, so you can work out whether they can attack you or not and whether yours are properly lined up. Move your skirmishers first, because there may be enemy hidden in places and they will expose them. Keep your units within the command radius of your generals and check your unit's action points. You can actually click and it will show you how many points it's going to cost to move to a certain point. And also at the beginning of the game, if you stay 5 squares away from an AI opponent, it quite commonly happens that the AI will just sit there and not respond, and sometimes that can be it's a bit of a cheesy thing to do, but it does work. It does enable you to attack the AI before the AI attacks you. It's especially important where you have troops that are moving very slowly in different speeds. In Field of Glory Empires, this is a very important tactic to use, actually. So it enables your troops the slow ones to move up at the same speed as the fast ones. As you probably know, you can undo a move in Field of Glory 2, but it is also possible to move a unit and then find out how this will affect the movement of a second unit. The key to this is you can click on the second unit, but do not move the second unit if you want to continue to undo the first move. So you can move the unit, the first one, and then the second unit, just click on it, and the second unit will then show you where it can go. And that's shown in this diagram here with in A, I've moved a unit, and in B, I've clicked on the elephant unit, and the elephant unit then shows where it can go. I can then go back to the first unit and undo its move. Earlier I mentioned that you should recruit and move your shooters in groups of 3. The reason is that it usually takes 3 shooting units to cause a cohesion level loss on their target. So concentrate your shooting on one target and keep shooting at it until it does lose that cohesion level. Units can be repeatedly made to take cohesion tests from shooting until they fail. However, once they have failed, they will not take another cohesion level loss. So do not bother continuing to shoot at the same target. Move on to another target once it has lost a cohesion level, like it's become disrupted or something like that. And if you are able, for some reason, to sit there with 3 units shooting at an enemy target for 3 turns in a row, it's likely that it will become disrupted the first turn, fragmented the second turn, and it will rout on the third turn. Shooting can be very powerful if it's done properly. So shooting is a lot more effective if the shooters have not moved during that turn. So that's why I suggest having a shooting phase at the start of your turn. And also, if you have the option, it is usually better to shoot than charge, because that's the way skirmishes are designed. They're designed to be better at shooting than they are at fighting. Remember to conserve your shots, because you only get 5 shots at full power, and after that they're pretty useless. And if you do have to move your shooters, try to get them into a position where they can make a standing still shot the following turn, or where if they are being shot at by the enemy, they will not be in short range of the enemy.